Yes guys, Jess here, back with another video. You've read the title. This is the next move for Bitcoin. We're going to be looking at all the charts I have prepared for you guys. You can see that yesterday we went through all the different scenarios for Bitcoin, if this was going to be a massive turning point towards the downside and everything. So today I'm going to be giving my bias and we're going through the charts as well to be seeing if there's anything else we need to be looking at. And of course, I'm going to be going over the S&P today and looking at the wider context of the market so that we can be seeing what's next for the Bitcoin price. So before we get in towards the analysis, make sure to smash up that like button. Let's try and get above 20 likes. That'd be absolutely insane. And with that being said, let's get straight away in towards this banger. Bow. So Bitcoin's traded within a weekend right now, and we're already creating a CME gap. So you can see that the close point on Friday was at 96,800, and essentially you tend to fill these gaps when the weekend actually closes. So keep an eye out for this level. If we deviate towards the downside a bit more, it's likely we actually revert towards this price. But yeah, it's likely we just consolidate in and around 96,800. I've explained this many times on the channel, so it's not anything new. And just delving in towards the price, we've now successfully reclaimed this support level, and you can see as well that we're actually just slowing down the momentum here. So again, we need to be seeing if it's likely we come and tag this massive level where we had previous rejections, lots of support in this region, and that was the last kind of pivot point before we went towards the downside. So this is a big level to be watching. It's our point of control over here, and we're at the 618 and the 65 golden pocket of resistance. But looking at the volume at the bottom there, I can see that it's actually ticking towards the downside. We can actually look at the daily exchange volume as well, and you can see it's lower lows, lower highs. So again, I think at the start of next week, we're going to be getting a volatile move, whether that's going to be, shattering this resistance and grabbing a bit more liquidity before we actually come towards the downside and maybe create the higher low then, or even if we come down and have a more shallow reaction, I think this region is a key level to be watching. So yeah, moving on to the next chart, you can see it's a bit more clear here. Very big level. This has been a massive level to be watching. So again, moving in towards 99k, in towards 100k, big psychological level one, and of course lots of reactions. And yeah, if we move in towards that level, I do think that that's where we're going to be getting the first kind of higher low forming. But again, it is possible that we actually move towards the downside, because even if I look at the RSI and actually scale down in time frame, so I go in towards the 4-hour time frame, you can see that we have a little bit of bearish divergence. So price is actually increasing like this, but the RSI is actually moving towards the downside. So typically you get choppy price action, so something like this where you start to consolidate in and around this region, or you actually start to get the move towards the downside, where maybe that's where we can form a higher low before returning towards the upside. So this is something I'm watching. I think that either way, the general direction is going to be towards the upside, and I'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, big supply zone here. So again, if we do get some moves towards the downside, you have your yearly open as your first kind of point of support. So that's the weekly open for this week. It's in and around your monthly open and your yearly. So you have quite a bit of support at 93k. So if you can't hold that just below 94k, I do think that the next one would be this gap over here, where we had that moves towards the upside and it coincides with a lot of support. So this is going to be in and around the 90k region. If we can fill that gap, then that's going to be where we can actually establish, a big higher low, because this was essentially lower lows. That's your kind of major low, and you had no kind of meaningful pullback. So I think the next one will be a good kind of region where you could be getting into the market if you weren't in already. But of course, we've been covering on the channel that you needed to start getting long once we reclaimed this region, and that's exactly where we started to jump into longs, and price has just been soaring ever since. So that's why you need to be subscribed, post notice on. But anyways, this will be a good region. So I think 90k will be a good place to be actually establishing some buys if we reject from this region right now. So we can actually look to the stock market to be seeing if we need to be bullish or bearish and what's likely to be happening next, since Bitcoin actually follows the stock market quite well. But this is a screenshot when we started dumping, and I was telling you guys we came into a big level, and I was expecting a bounce to at least our range quarter, and then around 5,400 for the S&P. And you can see that's exactly what's happened right now. We're actually pumping towards the upside, and it's looking like a V-shaped recovery. But again, we need to be analyzing if this is going to be a point where we actually come down. You can see this is another supply zone on the stock market. We're coming towards a key region, and if we go into this next chart, again, 65618 taken from the high to the low. So this is another key region, and you can see that this was some support over here, and then we lost it, came, tested, rejected. So as we're approaching this level, this could be where we have a move to the next support region, and that can maybe be some sort of inverse head and shoulders reversal where we can actually start to establish an uptrend. So next week can be a little bit, bearish. So definitely be watching out for that. But I think the general direction will be bullish. But of course, how can that actually happen? Potentially the USD news. We have PMI, and we also have a lot of comments from the FOMC. So we have Powell talking on Wednesday. We have Waller speaking on Friday. So again, this could be a catalyst causing the stock market to come down, and then that can actually cause the Bitcoin market and the wider crypto market as well to come towards the downside. So watch out for that. But yeah, this is another reason why we started to take out longs when we were actually dipping on that massive tariff news. And yeah, we came in towards this parallel channel level of support. And yeah, perfect bounce towards the upside. And we're actually approaching the yearly open now after, rising above the monthly. We were on support, and it's very clear stuff. So yeah, we actually had a perfect bounce. But this is another kind of reason why I think maybe we can come towards the downside. This is the monthly time frame, and we have a big wick. And typically, this is inefficiencies in the market. So you come to fill the inefficiency candle, the big wick, at least 50%, which perfectly lines up with the trend line. So again, this could be a region where the S&P comes down, but this is very vague. This is just a general observation, a bit more kind of accurate way to look at it. I think it's this Fibonacci, where if we come in towards here and we see some weakness on the lower time frames, I do think that it's likely we can trade in towards this support level, and then maybe we can actually move towards the upside. So definitely watch out for that. Coincides with this range quarter here. So I think that's where this yellow level comes from. And of course, is your mid range from your ultimate lows. You can see this big low, and then you take it from your highs as well, and then you give 50%. This is your mid range. So I think this is a big level, and that level is 5.5. Yeah, so 5,500 for the S&P. But yeah, back to crypto, you can see that Bitcoin, the majority of liquidity is to the upside. So if we just come down towards 90K to take out the last bit of the liquidity to the downside, I still think that, the wider trends to the upside is still bullish. Price action is still pointing towards higher prices. So I'm not going to be getting too bearish on any pullbacks. We've been perfectly showing this bullish cross from the MACD. And look, we've actually pumped straight away, and it's exactly playing out so far. You can see that we have, bullish market structure. So again, I'm not getting bearish. We've tested this previous resistance level into a support, and it's looking like this is looking very good on the monthly time frame for Bitcoin. And you can see history is repeating right now. We're forming the same kind of structures we have for the past 3 cycles, and this is the 4th one now where it's playing out. So again, I trust the 4-year cycle. I think things are going to be looking very good. And yeah, looking at the M2 global liquidity, you can see that this was another reason at the lows where we didn't even break this downslipping trend line. But I was telling you guys, if we do, it's likely going to follow the direction of the global liquidity. This double bottom formation perfectly played out, and global liquidity is soaring to all-time highs, and Bitcoin is likely to follow the global liquidity. So that's looking quite good. You can see that it's continuing to move higher. So again, the Bitcoin kind of price is likely to follow. This is a good indicator, and I think it's quite reliable to indicate where the risk assets can actually go, and it's pointing towards all-time highs. So again, I'm not going to be moving too bearish when it comes to looking at the direction for the next few months. And yeah, we could look at Ethereum. It looks like Ethereum has been breaking out recently, and it's testing a big level of resistance here. So if we can reclaim 2000 and hold multiple weekly candles above, I do think that 2.5 is very likely for Ethereum, and then we can go towards the upside. But again, if we actually start to see some pullbacks in towards 90K, I think maybe we can actually sweep 1.3 actually. And if we reclaim this level, I think that the low might be in for Ethereum. But anything can happen. If we start to reject, and Powell starts talking and things are just not looking good on the macro, I think that $1,000 for Ethereum is a very solid level where this will be kind of the bottom for this cycle, and then ETH BTC will fully bottom. But of course, I can't really predict that. There's nothing you can do. That's not really actionable. The main thing is just looking, if we can reclaim this level, then that's an easy opportunity to actually be capitalizing on the Ethereum pump. But of course, if things are not looking too good on the news side, just be open, be ready for any kind of buying opportunities where we actually come down. Because I think if you're buying between 1K and about 2K here for Ethereum, if we start pumping in towards new all-time highs, and for example we hit 10K for Ethereum, nobody cares where you bought. It's more risky not to DCA when it's this low. And if you believe in Ethereum, of course, I think it's more risky not to DCA than being kind of stingy for 10 or 15%. I think it's wise to just continue to layer your bids, and then get as much kind of Ethereum you can over the weeks, of course, if you believe there's going to be an altcoin season. And one reason why you might believe that is the Bitcoin dominance is likely to come down. There's a lot of short on Ethereum. Typically, the market likes to kind of hunt, liquidity. So that's likely. And of course, the tension is very low. And that's clearly reflected in the price for Ethereum. So when the interest comes back, due to maybe the monetary policy shifting next week, if Powell actually talks about that, that can actually cause this to start ticking towards the upside. And maybe the buying opportunity for Ethereum is gone. So I don't think that, it's a time to be losing focus. The kind of environment we're in right now is Bitcoin season, as you can see by this indicator. So if it goes to altcoin season, I think it will be too late to be accumulating any altcoins. So yeah, just don't be fading things right now. Things for altcoins might not be looking as good, but I think that will change very soon. But for Bitcoin, we're still looking very, very good on the higher time frames. I think that we're going to continue to trend towards the upside. You can see that the ETFs for Ethereum hasn't been as nice as you can see they have been for Bitcoin. So again, like this week, we had a total of about 3.95 billion bought in ETFs altogether. But you can see BlackRock has been continuously buying Bitcoin, which just shows you that the institutions are actually, seeing the direction that Bitcoin is likely to go. And I don't think it's retail just buying. I definitely think institutions are actually, buying Bitcoin in particular. And that would be the same for Ethereum once stuff starts changing in the macro landscape. So yeah, that'll be it for me. Make sure to be following me on X to be staying up with consistent updates here. You can see I'm dropping the charts before I make these videos, and of course different charts that I don't have time to actually be covering. So make sure to be following me on X to be getting all the relevant data points so you know what's going on in the market. And yeah, I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow on the next one. Have a blessed rest of your day. Peace, guys. See ya. Bye bye.